Hello and welcome to Sports Fan Entertainment. As free agency continues, I wanted to go ahead and talk about what is now pretty much going to be the second wave of free agency. We had the huge flurry of Tennessee Titans activity Monday through Wednesday. I covered that in a 45-minute live stream on Wednesday. So if you haven't watched that, I'll go ahead and add that to the cards there. A lot to discuss. I haven't made a video that long in, I think, over a year. It's been a while. There was so much to discuss, and I could have went for another 30 minutes if I needed to, but there was so much to discuss, so go ahead and check that out. But since then, it's been very quiet, actually. I don't think we signed even one player since Wednesday. Now, that's because obviously all the tampering happens Monday and Tuesday, so by Wednesday, a lot of the news comes out, and then there's a bit of a lull. Some teams are still signing, and then you enter this second wave. So I wanted to discuss the free agents that are being linked to the Titans for this second wave of free agency and my thoughts on them. I touched on a couple of them in that video, but I'll go ahead and regurgitate the points that I made and my thoughts on these names that are still linked to the Titans. And there's going to be more names, right? Because remember, it's later on in the offseason that we got DeAndre Hopkins. Last year, also later in the offseason, we got Sean Murphy-Bunting. So we're still even later on, even in May, after the draft, in June, July, still some of these names are going to be out there. There's going to be rumors, things are going to happen. So it's always an evolving situation with Rand Carthon in Tennessee. So we begin with edge rusher Chase Young, who you saw in the thumbnail. Now, Chase Young, without a doubt, has been a disappointment as the number 2 overall pick in, the 2020? I want to say NFL draft. Yeah, it should have been 2020 out of Ohio State. This was a guy that a lot of people saw as a future Hall of Famer, and I maybe wouldn't have said future Hall of Famer, but definitely thought he'd be a perennial Pro Bowler at the very least. I mean, he had all the signs that you look for from an elite pass rusher. I did have him a tick below like the Nick Bosas and Myles Garrett's, but I liked him at least as a Joey Bosa. Hasn't been that. Not up to this point. But the thing is with Chase Young, you look at him, and while you can question the effort at times and the production hasn't been there from a sack standpoint, he still grades pretty well in terms of pressure, still grades pretty well against the run. He hasn't had an average season when they look at Pro Football Focus. Every single year is above average, every single year. It's just not the numbers that you like to see and not the production that you like to see. And I look at a guy like he was paired with Montez Sweat, who had more production in Washington. And Montez Sweat was a guy that got a little bit more of that production, but he was even traded from Washington, and he started flowing a little bit for the Bears. Chase Young, after he was traded away from Washington, he had about 2.5 sacks, but then you saw Nick Bosa's production go up when he was traded there, and he did have some impact, maybe not as much as you'd like to see, which is why he's a free agent. But one of the reasons why I think you should not be afraid to pull this trigger is it's going to be a 2-year deal at max. Maximum of 2-year deal, and it's not going to be for much. It might look a lot because I still think he'll get double for sure. He'll get let's say, I'd be surprised if it was anything less than $14-15 million a year, which is a lot for a guy that maybe hasn't produced a lot yet. So maybe 2 years, 30, something like that. But the second year, there'd be no money on it. It'd be a complete, you can just cut him and maybe just a $3 million dead cap or something like that. And considering the fact that we still have money to spend, I think now the numbers, now we cut Under Dillon as I can't remember if we did a post-June 1 delegation out, but now he's off the team, so at least more cap space. We still have about $33-ish million in cap space, give or take, because the numbers are still being, calculated on that for some people. To get the exact number on that. It's a flyer, but we have the money to spend. And I still think you can get a lot more out of him. And I look at a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, and I don't want to scare people because I know we had Jadeveon Clowney. And we thought we were going to get more out of him. And then he came here and he really didn't produce. He wasn't bad. And like Chase Young, he usually grades pretty well. But then you're just looking for more impact. You're looking for snap to snap, more production, and it doesn't come and you end up feeling disappointed. Very similar story. However, this year was the year Jadeveon Clowney really broke out again. Under who? Defensive backs coach Darren Wilson, who was, with the Baltimore Ravens, who's now coming here. Now, I don't know what the relationship that they have or whatever and how much involvement he had in that, but I assume there was something attributed to that. And I've seen Denard Wilson lead cornerbacks having breakout years and getting more out of those guys that they had in Baltimore. Why can't he do it and improve some of the defensive linemen and linebackers as well? That's what you bring in a defensive coordinator to, by the way. You don't bring him in just as, well, this guy's a defensive backs coach. He's going to improve our secondary, and that's going to be it. He needs to be a guy that can console defense. And I think Denard Wilson is a guy that can do that. And, he's a huge, you ask people about the impact he had in that locker room and in that defense last year for the Ravens. He was a big part of that. So I think it's just worth a shot. Again, there's not a big commitment here. There was more of a commitment when it came to like an older Arik Armstead who was 30. I still wanted him, but he got like a 3-year deal. Chase Young is going to be 1 or 2, probably 2. I think he still has enough leverage to get 2. If he gets 3, I'd be surprised. I'll leave it out there as a possibility, but I think he'll get 2 years. And for that, why not? And even if you want 3, the third year would be like nothing. There'd be absolutely no dead cap under if I were making the contract. I would take the shot because at this point, I like that Harold Landry's back. But Arden Key and Rashad Weaver, I don't love them as starters. I love them as rotational guys. I love Arden Key as a third guy. I even like Rashad Weaver as a third. Well, maybe don't love, but I'm okay with Rashad Weaver as a third. But we don't have a definitive number. We kind of have a 1-ish in Harold Landry, but then we have a 1-ish, and then we have a couple 3s maybe, right, in terms of every rotation for a pass rusher. So we need at least a 2. And, if we're obviously probably going to take an offensive tackle with that first pick, although, by the way, we're going to start talking about the potential that we do take Dallas Turner if we don't get a pass rusher. We're going to talk about that. That does need to be discussed. We're not probably going to draft a pass rusher until at least round 4, so this would be a time to spend money on it and take a shot at Chase Young and see what we can get out of him. I still think he has a lot of potential. And again, it's not like he's graded poorly. Every year, he's graded positively. He's not a bad player. He's not like a Kenneth Murray's a guy who had a lot of potential, and he just hasn't played well. Chase Young, he's just been disappointing, and you just question the effort, But I mean, there's going to be effort because he wants that contract still, hopefully, right? So I think that effort is going to be there, and I'm interested in Chase Young. So we have inside linebacker Jerome Baker, formerly the Miami Dolphins, as the next name here. And I'm more okay on this. I still don't think neither he nor Murray are going to be long-term answers. And it's kind of frustrating because at this point we've gone from... Now, I never was a huge fan of Rashaan Evans or Avery Williamson. I thought they were both average. But we knew who we were getting. But now it seems like we're going to have a turnstile at inside linebacker because we had Azeez Al-Shire and Jack Gibbons, and we wanted Monty Rice to do something, and none of them have panned out. And the inside linebacker position is now becoming in flux, and I think if you get Jerome Baker, it'll be kind of the same thing. I think David Long went there and did better, okay? And we know David Long very well. He definitely did better. So Baker's a guy that... I mean, you'd expect him to be better in covers than he is. He's mostly confident against the run. I just think he's maybe below average starting linebacker. So it doesn't excite me like it does a lot of people. I think what really excites people is that you can just check another thing off of your depth chart. Sure. But I think I know what Jerome Baker is at this point. Kind of like how I know what Kenneth Murray is at this point. But... whereas I don't know if I know what Chase Young is at this point. So this doesn't excite me, but it would check a box. You'd have another inside linebacker that you can slot there, but I'm not that high on that. And then we have a pair of safeties in Marcus May and Justin Simmons. Now, the interesting thing, I like both of these names, and I love Justin Simmons as a name. My only thing, okay, when it comes to this, is both of these men, Marcus May is turning 31, Justin Simmons also turning 31, and we traded Kevin Byard because he was going to be 31, or at least that was a big part of it, right? And also for the draft capital. Okay, I'll give you that. But then why get rid of Byard, and then get people that are the same age as Byard? And arguably, in my opinion, he's better than May still. He's always been better than May, in my opinion. And then Simmons, they've been like peers. They've been equals. They both made Pro Bowls, and maybe Simmons has been slightly better, but it just seems like, why would we get rid of Byard and then sign one of these guys? It doesn't, I mean, they're cheaper probably at this point, so I guess that makes sense. So that's my only hang up, but that's what you'd be getting. You'd be getting exactly what Kevin Byard was giving us in different ways. They're not all the same play style, But in terms of impact, that's what you'd be getting. And I'm actually fine with that. I don't know why people keep forgetting. Safeties can play well into their 30s. I mean, Harrison Smith did it. We've had safeties that were, Chris Hope was pretty damn old whenever he was actually playing decently for us. We tried to get something out of that. What was his name? George. Oh, I can't remember that George guy from Buffalo. We tried to get more out of him, but that didn't work out. But safeties can play well into the 30s. So I'm not worried about the age thing for any of them. I still think they have 2-3 years left, and they can be that, because I still want some veterans on this defense, guys that can help in the secondary, guys that can help elevate other players in the secondary. And getting an older safety is fine with me, and it would check another box that we'd feel more comfortable about the safety position, because the Elijah Molden thing, he hasn't made that much of an impact. Maybe you play here or there, but not as much as you'd like. So I think having one of these veterans in there would be good, and I think they'd be relatively cheap right now, maybe only a 1-year deal even at this point. Maybe Simmons 2 years, maybe 3, but May looks like maybe only a year, because he's had some injury problems the last couple years as well. So I'd be fine with him. I prefer Simmons, of course, and I think he'd be like Byard for us, and what Byard was still giving us. Some people hated what Byard was giving us. I thought it was still fine. It wasn't the Pro Bowl level anymore. I thought it was still fine, and I was a little hesitant to trade for him. Some people going out there saying we fleeced the Eagles. Well, I don't know about that, but they didn't re-sign him, so okay, maybe, because they didn't re-sign him. But I thought he gave them what I thought he should have given. So those are the 4 names that were still attributed to. I'm sure there's going to be more names. I haven't heard of another tackle. We heard about Mekhi Becton earlier in free agency. That never materialized. And let me look it up real quick if he had been signed. I don't think, as of this video, this is making this on the Saturday, March 16 here. I don't think he's been signed yet. So I also haven't heard of a visit, though, for him. So I wouldn't hold your breath there. And I know we're all looking for a tackle. And I posited this on Titans Twitter, so I want to know what you guys think about this. So is everyone just done with Nicholas Petit-Frere? Are we now just out? Are we done? Because I'm now looking at it to where, I mean, people already asking, should we double up and hit offensive tackle first round and second round, you know, to get that right tackle? But I'm like, are we done with NPF? Because I'm not sure if I am. I think with Bill Callahan, Nicholas Petit-Frere in his 3rd year could really show a nice improvement. I'm not done there. I'm not done. I feel perfectly comfortable taking left tackle first round, wide receiver second, and then holding off on taking another tackle to the 4th, 5th round. I'm perfectly fine with that. I think our right tackle, that's the one thing I'm worried about. But now left tackle is going to be good. Maybe some rookie struggles, but I assume good. Left guard's good. Center is good. Right guard's okay. You can afford one bad lineman, especially because that left side is going to be so damn solid. We don't have one. Boo-hoo. We'll get it next year. We don't need to be perfect right now. See, that's also something that people need to realize. Everyone's like, we don't have a right tackle yet. And we don't have a starting. So like, it's year really 2 of the rebuild. We don't need to have every position locked. And hell, the Chiefs don't have every position locked. They didn't have a receiver all year except for Rashae Rice. We're the damn. Okay? They have offensive linemen that are below average, but they still win games because of Mahomes and the system and everything else. It's fine if we don't get a right tackle this year, and we have to go into the year with Petit-Frere and Chris Hubbard, and Bill Callahan is going to coach him up, and it's going to look better. It's going to be better. We actually have an offense. So relax if we don't get a right tackle. It's not that bad. Trust me. It's a nice to have, but look at the names out there. We don't need to spend every dollar yet. Keep some money for the upcoming years, unless they're 1 or 2 year deals. So, looking at those names, wide receiver at this point, I wouldn't do it. I want to draft one. I wouldn't do wide receiver. Just draft another one. Burks is your number 3 right now. Draft another one. Unless we want a Chris Moore type guy. They re-signed Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Why? I can't tell you, but they did that. So I think we're looking good. I think we're looking good. And again, I like this team right now as a playoff contending team. Just wait to see who we draft contending. Then next year, we'll fill a couple more of these spots. If Will Levis continues to progress, then you could be looking at a true contender here in Tennessee. I love what we're doing this offseason in Tennessee. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on who the Titans have interest into the second wave of the 2024 NFL free agency period. What are your thoughts? Comment down below. This has been MJ of Sports Fan Entertainment, and I'm out. See you all later.